Welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kiana Faircloth. That's right, folks, we're back with a brand new episode of Studio 901. We are excited to continue the custom of spotlighting local, emerging, and established artists that are creating right here in the DMV. With us, you'll discover some of the area's greatest treasures, some of our best-kept secrets, and hear some never-before-told stories about living the creative life. And if you don't know, this show is DCTV's greatest exploration of the art that is among us. Joining me today on Studio 901 is Lawrence Green. Welcome, Lawrence.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Producer, director, editor, Lawrence Green is a Washington, D.C. native and an eager participant in the local art scene, exhibiting his work through the Artomatic Nonprofit Arts Festival and working with organizations like the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, where he is a multimedia officer. He has been a featured artist at the East of the River Juried Exhibition and served as an advisory review panelist for the Washington, D.C. Commission on the Arts and Humanities East of the River Grant Project. In 2010, he founded the Time Traveling Media, dedicated to visually appealing experimental films and thought-provoking documentaries. Current projects include a feature-length documentary, Kinks, Locks, and Love, that presents hair journey stories from women who have opted to return to natural hairstyles. In his spare time, Lawrence DJs, reads, and is a photographer. Welcome to Studio 901, Lawrence Green.
Hello. How you doing, Kiana?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Definitely a pleasure to be here.
On Studio 901, we always kick off the show with one question in particular, and that is, how did you get started being creative?
I would have to say the process started probably when I was really young as a baby. My family, we were a collector of photographs. We had basically a bunch of photographs in our basement or different rooms in our house. And I just remember like thumbing through those photographs when I was a kid. And I think that's where I really started to fall in love with the art of photography. My mom had an old, 35 millimeter camera with film. And I just remember just playing with it. And it just sort of grew from there. In junior high school, I started shooting basketball games and just different sports activities in high school also. And ended up going to film school.
Wow.
And, just basically it's just been a continuation of the interests I've had since I was a kid.
So you always wanted to be behind the camera, not necessarily in front.
Not necessarily in front.
Okay. Yeah. Isn't that ironic, right?
I know, right? Here we are.
So what inspires you or has inspired you to make films now?
I was inspired by, I remember going to see Malcolm X, directed by Spike Lee. Yeah.
Right, that'll do it.
I mean, I remember that moment sitting, I was in Union Station. I believe it was my mom who took me. It may have been both of my parents, no disrespect to my dad. It was both of my parents. Okay, both of my parents took me to see the film. And it was packed. I mean, it was just nowhere for no one. There was no seats left. I had to sit like on the front row in the corner. And I just remember the feeling I had watching that film for 3 hours. It was just one of the most magical experiences of my life.
Wow.
And it just seemed larger than life. I think I was in junior high school or something like that.
Yeah.
And I also remember seeing Titanic, which is sort of much different than Malcolm X, but it just took me to another place. Not that I'm sort of escapist, but it gave me a feeling that I was a different person. I didn't leave the same person after watching Malcolm X.
You wouldn't, right?
No.
That movie is really, gosh.
It's very powerful.
Now, would you say that was the thing that was the catalyst ultimately for you wanting to make films yourself, or was there an event that you wanted to tell a story about?
I would say that was one of the primary catalysts. And I would also add to that, my dad and my brother and I, we used to have these boys' days when we were young. And it would normally take place on the weekend, and it always included seeing a movie. So I remember going to the movies with my dad and my brother, and we would go see action movies like Die Hard and Batman and, you know, all of these, you know, kind of classic action films that came out in the late 80s and early 90s. So I just think that process really helped, you know, spark my interest at the time.
Now, is it hard to get started on telling a story that you want to put on film, or what is your process like in the filmmaking experience for you?
Yeah, so I basically have a running list of topics or ideas that I want to make a film about. So sometimes I start writing them down on my cell phone. Other times I'm in my studio and I just sort of, you know, jot a few notes down in like a Microsoft Word document. And every now and then I just go back to that list, and whatever I feel most interested in that time is when I put more effort into making the film. Other times I have had collaborators approach me with ideas, and I've, you know, taken upon myself to, you know, work with them, and they've taken upon themselves to work with me, and we produce something together. And other times I'm literally just thrown into a project by surprise, such as my film Kinks, Locks, and Love. I had no idea it was going to be what it is today, and it just sort of happened because it was, you know, it was just a fascinating topic that I knew nothing about for the most part at the time.
Now, what inspired you to produce Kinks, Locks, and Love in particular? Now, you're winning awards behind this film.
Yes.
Who inspired it?
My wife's transition from having a perm to a relaxer, I'm sorry, from having a perm to natural hair, was the primary motivation behind the film, behind me making the film. I was just very interested in her process, and without her help, particularly early on, I wouldn't have gotten to know some of the people who are in the film today, who actually made the final cut.
Wow.
So I just remember the story she told me about her transition process and how, you know, hurt I was based on some of the feedback that she got. And I wanted to know if there were other people like her who had similar experiences.
Absolutely.
And that kind of triggered the filmmaking process.
Yeah. Now, you'd be surprised. I guess you found out through making this film how big of a deal hair is for Black women.
Right.
You know?
I don't have much here, so yeah.
Right. But it really is a big deal, and it's
deal.
awesome that you made this film. You know, I know there are others like Good Hair and things like that. I'm sure you've seen that.
Yes.
But there's always a story behind that transition for Black women from that relaxed hair to natural hair.
Yes, there's definitely plenty of stories. Everyone I interviewed, over 20 people for this film, actually probably more than that if you include just some of the side interviews I had with people, they all had their own story. There were certain themes that were similar, for sure, and those themes played out in the film. You can see those themes in the film, but everyone had a different hair story. So yeah, it was very interesting just trying to edit it and put it all together. So
I'm sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, when we come back, we'll talk more with filmmaker Lawrence Green. Stay right there.
I love taking care of my mom. It wasn't easy at first. She learned how to better communicate her needs.
And you learned how to not ignore yours.
I discovered how to make healthier meals.
And I discovered how much I enjoyed them.
Becoming a caregiver is a learning experience for everyone. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
The inherent right to work is one of the elemental privileges of a free people. Endowed, as our nation is, with abundant physical resources, and inspired as it should be with the high purpose to make those resources and opportunities available for the enjoyment of all. We approach this problem of re-employment with the real hope of finding a better answer than we have now.
When they test you, stand firm and move only when you hear the seatbelt click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Welcome back to Studio 901. I'm chatting with filmmaker Lawrence Green. So Lawrence, what is your creative process like? Can you take us through a day in the life of you putting together a film?
Yeah, well, it definitely depends on the project. I've made a variety of different types of films: documentaries, short films, experimental films, nature-driven films. But for the most part, it normally starts with some sort of motivation. And from that motivation, I have to be able to visually see something that I find appealing, that I want to shoot, that I want to capture. And from that process, I either begin writing and reaching out to people who I want to collaborate with and work with, or I grab my camera and I go out there and shoot it. It's just a matter of how many people are going to be a part of the film, or is it something I can do myself? And if people are even going to be in it, I have films that don't even have people in it. They're just, you know, it can be about, I've made films about ants, I've made films about the metro.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm, you know, I try to cover a lot of different bases. And it just depends on the nature of the film.
And how you're feeling.
And how I'm feeling, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about how do you know when a story is finished? Because I know a lot of times, you know, when you're writing, you have so much to say.
Yeah.
And I can imagine when you're putting together a film, it's got to end at some point. So
Yeah.
how do you make that determination?
Most definitely. So, for instance, my latest film, King Socks and Love, I knew that it was hard to sort of stop making that film. I mean, so many different stories. I could have followed up with the ladies and some of the men who were featured in the film and continued to go on and on. But I got to a point where I felt like, you know, for the most part, I had everything I needed to say what I thought needed to be said. And it was just a matter of putting all the pieces together. And that's what I did. Another film I made, Ronnie's Nation, about a family member who was incarcerated for over 25 years.
Wow, your own family member?
My own family member, who
Wow.
I'm proud to say. His name is Ronald Williams. He served over 25 years in prison, and I made a short film about him. I knew it was time to wrap that up because I felt like he had turned a corner in his life, and I thought he was in a really good place to sort of end the film on a high note on a personal level. And that process took 3 years, shooting him on and off, So it's just sort of a gut feeling,
Now, you know, in life, a lot of times we learn from the mistakes we make and the failures and things like that. Now, can you tell us a little bit about how you turned a failure into a success as it relates to filmmaking? Or what you perceived as a failure and turned it into a success?
Well, you know, filmmaking is it's an experimental process. And
Trial and error.
Trial and error, for sure. Wow, I learned a lot of different shooting techniques over the past few years while making various films. For one big mistake I made actually was I was shooting an interview with someone, and there was some ceramic towel in the background. It was in someone's kitchen for one of the films that we've talked about. It was actually for King Socks and Love. And you could see the reflection of the light that I was using to shoot her. And from that point on, I was so upset with myself. And it was such a huge failure and just, you know, a mess up on my part. I actually started to make a list of a shooting list of everything I needed to do and make sure of before I started to shoot interviews and just anything in particular. So that was a mistake I made, and I just sort of, you know, corrected it.
You learned from it, moved on, and you'll never do that again.
I'll never do that again. Yeah, it was just a rookie mistake, and I just overlooked it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as a filmmaker, you know, do you feel that it's possible to sell out? And what would that mean to you?
What would that mean to me?
If you
Yes.
sold out in your eyes, what is that? What does that look like?
Well, you know, I can't define whether if it's possible for someone else to sell out. But for me, I believe selling out would be if I did not have a certain level of intention behind the projects I made. If I didn't have a certain message, or if I didn't take into consideration the effect it would have on generations to come. You know, so I have to take these things into consideration. I would love for my films to stand the test of time, and if they don't do that, then I would consider that to a certain degree selling out.
Okay, so you have to have a greater mission behind the art that you're putting out.
I would love to. I've done stuff that I'm not particularly proud of. My name isn't on it.
Okay.
You know, I've been in the industry for a long time, and I've worked in studios, and you know, I've done some things just to pay the bills. But if it's something I really feel really dear about, and I have a strong connection to, I would love to have a mission behind it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, everybody doesn't think like you, though, right?
Well, you know, that's their
Everybody
fault.
doesn't have good intentions and
totally
morals,
joking.
I guess.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just my personal philosophy.
Awesome. Before we go to break, I do want you to talk a little bit about how social media you feel has played a role in your filmmaking career.
Wow.
Like, has it helped it take off a little bit more than you feel it would if you hadn't been active in social media?
You know, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I was on Facebook for many years, and once I quit Facebook, I got so much more work done. Nothing against Facebook, but when I started to dial back some of my social media personal activities, and just posting stuff and engaging in, you know, conversations with my friends and family members, I started to get a lot more work done. That's on the personal side. But I have used social media to enhance and to promote my films for sure.
Yes.
I've used Facebook in a professional sense, and it has definitely helped. So
broaden your audience.
Broaden my audience, most definitely. So not all of my films have their own personal websites. So I have used social media as a platform.
Or a repository, I guess.
Okay, cool. Exactly, yeah, to get messages out about the film. So, yeah, it's come in handy.
I'm sure. Well, when we come back, we'll talk more with Lawrence Green. Stay with us. This is Studio 901.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Thank you, dear. Well, you're very supple. Just like I was at your age. Back then, I was a sex expert. Used to call me the buttered biscuit. I know about birth control, too. So you can ask me anything, baby.
Bedsider.org has birth control information and a lot more. And it's...
Have you had sex in this car yet?
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Welcome back to Studio 901. I'm chatting with filmmaker Lawrence Green. Now, Lawrence, tell us what the future looks like for you.
Well, it's definitely going to be creative. It's going to be fun. It's going to be full of lessons. It's going to be full of family and friends. And I got to keep it funky.
Yeah.
You know, I got to keep it in the spirit of the purple one, Prince, who unfortunately passed away not too long ago. And he's one of my primary artistic guys. And, you know, I just want to continue to you know, experiment with different genres and hopefully create films and multimedia products that people find interesting and can learn something from.
Absolutely. You're on track then. You're doing your thing.
Thank you. I'm trying.
Now, how can folks find out more about you and everything that you're doing? Give us everything, everywhere, social media, all that good stuff.
You can go to my website, www.timetravelingmedia.com. I'm on Facebook. The company's on Facebook. The company's on Twitter as well. You can follow me personally on Instagram at The Cosmic Edge. Some of my DJing skills and parties are promoted on there as well.
Keeping it funky.
That's right. Gotta keep it funky. And I'm also on SoundCloud and Mixcloud as well. So you can pretty much find me on my website. That's where you'll find out about all the things I'm involved in.
And that's, again, the
Time Traveling Media.
Timetravelingmedia.com.
That's right. Timetravelingmedia.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll be right back. You're watching Studio 901 only on DCTV.
Today, 1 out of every 4 American kids is Hispanic. Many of the future doctors who will care for us, the scientists and entrepreneurs of our country, can be your kids. And the Hispanic Scholarship Fund helps you prepare, plan, and pay for your kids' college education.
Thank you for tuning in to Studio 901. It's been a real treat sitting down and talking with filmmaker Lawrence Green. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. He is someone that's truly turning his love of filmmaking into a reality right here in the DMV. Remember, Studio 901 spotlights emerging artists from all over the DMV that are creating and performing right here in our own backyard. If you want to find out more about what you saw today, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at YourDCTV, or visit our website at dctv.org. Before you leave, I want to leave you with this quote from American artist John Singer Sargent. "You can't do sketches enough. Sketch everything and keep your curiosity fresh." Join us for another episode of Studio 901, where we just might spotlight you. I'm Kiana Faircloth. Until next time.